Helena gripped the steering wheel tightly, her tired eyes scanning the empty street ahead. It was past midnight, and the city lights flickered through the raindrops on her windshield. She had been driving for hours, picking up passengers, barely making enough to cover the day's expenses. This was her life. Wake up, take care of the kids, drive, come home exhausted, and repeat. 3 years ago, she never imagined she would be here, alone, struggling, doing everything on her own. Her ex-husband had left when their youngest daughter was still in diapers. No calls, no support, just a sudden absence that turned into silence. At first, she cried. Then, she learned to survive. Helena pulled into a gas station, her hands aching from the long drive. She checked her phone, 3 missed calls from her oldest son. Her heart tightened. She quickly called back. "Mom, when are you coming home?" His voice was small, tired. "Soon, baby," she whispered. "Just a little longer." The guilt never faded. She wanted to be there for them, to tuck them in at night, to read bedtime stories. But bills didn't wait, and neither did hunger. She sighed, adjusting the mirror. Her reflection stared back, dark circles under weary eyes. Hair tied in a messy bun, a face that had aged beyond its years. She couldn't break. She wouldn't. With a deep breath, Helena started the car again, pushing through the exhaustion. Tomorrow would be the same. But she had no choice. She had 3 little souls depending on her. Helena's body begged for rest, but she pushed forward, gripping the wheel as she scanned the dark road ahead. Just one more ride, she told herself. One more passenger, and she could finally go home. Her phone buzzed with a notification, rent due in 3 days. She exhaled sharply, tightening her grip. There was no time for rest. The traffic light ahead turned yellow, but Helena miscalculated the distance. She pressed the brake too late. A blinding flash. A deafening crash. The impact threw her forward, the seatbelt cutting into her chest. Glass shattered, metal twisted. Then, silence. She gasped, pain shooting through her ribs. Her vision blurred, sirens echoed in the distance. She tried to move but couldn't. Darkness swallowed her. When Helena opened her eyes, the hospital ceiling greeted her. The harsh fluorescent lights made her head pound. "Mom!" A familiar voice broke through the haze. Her son, Daniel, stood by her bedside, his little face pale with worry. A nurse approached. "Mrs. Almeida, you were in an accident. You have a fractured rib and a sprained wrist. You'll need time to recover." Helena's stomach twisted. "Time?" she croaked. "I don't have time. I need to work." The nurse's expression softened. "I understand, but your body needs rest." Rest. As if that were an option. Her heartbeat quickened. No work meant no money. No money meant no home. Tears burned her eyes. She had survived the crash, but the real wreckage was just beginning. Helena sat on the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts spinning in a storm of fear and desperation. The sterile white walls felt suffocating. She wasn't just injured, she was trapped. A knock on the door pulled her back. The doctor walked in with a clipboard, glancing at her chart. "Mrs. Almeida, you need at least 4 weeks of rest before resuming any strenuous activity." 4 weeks. She let out a bitter laugh. She didn't have 4 days. "Is there someone who can help you?" the doctor asked gently. Helena swallowed hard. No. Her ex-husband was gone. Her parents had passed away years ago. Friends? She had drifted from them, too consumed with work and survival. There was no safety net. Just her and the kids. Daniel, her oldest, walked in with his little sister, Sophia. Their eyes filled with worry. "Mom, are you okay?" Sophia asked, gripping her hand. Helena forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart." But inside, she was crumbling. Days later, back at home, reality hit hard. The bills kept coming, but her account was empty. The landlord's voice echoed in her head from their last conversation: "If you don't pay by the end of the month, you'll have to leave." Her wrist ached as she struggled to cook dinner, her ribs throbbing with every movement. Her phone buzzed, another debt reminder. She clenched her jaw, blinking back tears. She had fought so hard for so long. But now, for the first time, she wondered. Was this the battle she couldn't win? Helena sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the eviction notice in her trembling hands. Final warning. The words felt like a death sentence. Her body still ached from the accident, her wrist wrapped in a brace, her ribs sore with every breath. But none of that compared to the weight crushing her chest. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find her landlord, Mr. Santiago, standing there, arms crossed. "Helena, I can't wait any longer. If you don't have the payment by Friday, you'll have to leave." She swallowed hard. "I just need a little more time." He sighed. "I'm sorry, but I have my own bills to pay." Then, lowering his voice, he added, "There's someone looking for you downstairs." Confused, Helena stepped out and made her way down the stairs, gripping the railing for support. At the building's entrance stood a man in his late 40s, dressed in a dark coat. His posture was calm, but his sharp eyes held something unreadable. She hesitated. "Can I help you?" He nodded. "My name is Gabriel. I heard about your accident." Her heart pounded. "How?" "Let's just say I know people." He paused, then pulled a check from his pocket. "I want to help you." Helena's breath caught. The amount on the check was enough to cover her rent twice. She took a step back. "Why would you do this?" Gabriel's expression didn't change. "Because sometimes, people deserve a second chance." Her fingers twitched. Help had finally come. But could she trust it? Helena stared at the check, her mind racing. No one had ever offered her something like this, help with no conditions, no expectations. It felt unreal. Her instinct screamed, "Don't trust him." Life had taught her that nothing came for free. I can't accept this," she finally said, pushing the check back toward Gabriel. He didn't flinch. "Why not?" She folded her arms, her voice steady. "Because nothing in this world is free." A small, almost knowing smile crossed his face. "You're right. But not all kindness comes with a price." He studied her carefully. "Take it as a loan, if that helps. When you're back on your feet, you can decide what to do." Helena's throat tightened. Rent was due in 2 days. She had no money, no way to work, and 3 children depending on her. Pride wouldn't put food on the table. With a deep breath, she took the check. "I don't know how to thank you." Gabriel nodded. "Then don't. Just get back on your feet." That night, as she tucked her kids into bed, she felt something strange, hope. The next morning, she called the landlord and made the payment. The relief of knowing they wouldn't be homeless made her legs weak. But Helena knew this wasn't the end of the struggle. This was just the first step. She wouldn't waste this chance. Because for the first time in years, she had one. The relief of paying the rent was short-lived. Helena knew that one check wouldn't solve everything. She needed a plan, a real solution. Her injuries still limited her, but she refused to sit and wait for things to get worse. The next morning, she searched online for jobs she could do from home. Data entry, virtual assistant, customer service, anything that could bring in income without requiring physical labor. But most positions needed experience she didn't have. Her heart sank as rejection emails filled her inbox. That evening, as she sat at the kitchen table, Gabriel called. "How are things?" he asked. "I'm trying," she admitted. "But it's not easy." He hesitated. "I might have a job for you." Helena tensed. She had been grateful for his help, but the idea of owing him anything made her nervous. "I don't know if..." "Nothing shady," he interrupted, sensing her hesitation. "A friend owns a small business and needs someone to manage appointments and handle emails. It's remote. A real opportunity." She closed her eyes for a moment, weighing the offer. Accepting meant trusting him. It meant stepping into the unknown again. But she had no choice. "When do I start?" 2 weeks later, Helena sat at her small desk, her laptop open, typing away. The job wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was rebuilding. And for the first time in a long time, she believed she might actually make it. Months passed, and Helena's life slowly transformed. The job Gabriel had found for her became more than just a temporary solution, it became stability. She learned quickly, worked hard, and even earned her first raise. Her children noticed the change. There were no more whispered worries about rent, no more nights of counting coins for groceries. One evening, as she tucked Sophia into bed, her daughter held onto her hand. "Mom, are we going to be okay now?" Helena smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Sophia's face. "Yes, baby. We're going to be okay." And for the first time, she truly believed it. Later that night, she sat on the porch, feeling the cool night air against her skin. She thought about everything she had endured, nights of exhaustion, the accident, the fear of losing everything. And yet, she was still here. A car pulled up, its headlights illuminating the street. Gabriel stepped out, his familiar calm presence bringing an unexpected warmth. "I came to check on you," he said. "You look different." She tilted her head. "Different how?" He smiled slightly. "Stronger." She let out a soft laugh. "Maybe because I am." There was no bitterness in her voice anymore, no fear of what tomorrow might bring. She had faced rock bottom. She had fought through the darkness. And now, standing on the other side, she realized something. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living. Tell us in the comments what you learned today. Your feedback is super important for us to keep bringing even better content. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to keep practicing English in a natural and engaging way. See you in the next video.